Hi, my name is Mercy Awantu, and welcome to my presentation on Coca-Cola's international business strategy. Coca-Cola was founded in 1886 by Dr. John Pemberton, and Coca-Cola has actually grown to operate in over 200 countries, becoming one of the most recognized global brands. And this presentation today is going to exploit Coca-Cola's domestic and international strategies, its approach to gauging cost, benefits, and risk in foreign markets, its use of joint ventures, and a key business decision aligned with core concepts. Let's start with the basic differences between domestic and international strategies. So we are going to focus on a couple of factors, starting with market scope. So with the domestic strategy, the market scope focuses on serving a single national market with a uniform regulatory and cultural environment, while international strategy involves expanding across multiple countries. And that requires adjustments to diverse regulatory, economic, and cultural conditions. As far as standardization versus adaptation, domestic strategy emphasizes standardized products and processes for cost efficiency and consistency, whereas international strategy balances global standardization with localized adaptations to meet regional or national market needs. Another point we'll be looking at is operational focus. With domestic strategy, operational focus centralizes operations that focus on local market needs, whereas the international strategy is decentralized operations that are tailored to individual markets. Now, the next point is going to be risk management. With domestic strategy operates in familiar environments with predictable risk, whereas international market actually face complex risks like currency fluctuations, political instability, and others. Cultural considerations are also different with domestic and international strategies. Domestic strategy caters to a homogeneous customer base, whereas that's actually with minimal cultural adjustments, but international strategy requires sensitivity to diverse cultural norms and preferences, and so they have to adjust products, marketing, and management to align with local expectations. Now, let's compare between Coca-Cola's domestic and international strategies, starting with the market scope. Coca-Cola's domestic strategy actually focuses on serving the US market, maintaining a dominant market share by tailoring its offerings to meet local consumer needs, whereas international strategy expands across over 200 countries, adapting to diverse cultural preferences, regulatory environments, and so on. With product standardization versus adaptation, Coca-Cola's domestic strategy focuses on product standardization, offering flagship products like Coca-Cola Classic and Diet Coke, while introducing new flavors and healthier options to address changing consumer preferences. Whereas the international strategy balances global standardization with local adaptation, offering region-specific products like the Georgia coffee in Japan and Thumbs Up in India to align with local taste. In terms of marketing and branding, Coca-Cola's domestic strategy focuses on leveraging nostalgia and its long-standing connection with American culture, using campaigns like Share a Coke to build emotional connections with consumers. Meanwhile, its international strategy tailors marketing efforts to regional cultures, such as emphasizing family values during the Chinese New Year in China. Okay, the next point we're going to look at is operational focus. And as far as the domestic strategy is concerned, it focuses on centralized operations supported by an extensive bottling network that ensures efficient production and distribution within the US market. Meanwhile, its international strategy adopts a decentralized approach, forming partnerships and joint ventures with local bottlers to navigate local regulations and address logistical challenges. Now, in terms of challenges and opportunities, Coca-Cola's domestic strategy focuses on addressing challenges such as changing consumer preferences towards health-conscious products by diversifying into options like sparkling water and plant-based drinks. Whereas its international strategy tackles challenges like political instability and currency fluctuations while actually capitalizing on opportunities in emerging markets like Africa and Asia. Now, let's gauge the cost, benefit, and risk of a foreign market. So, basically, gauging the cost, benefit, and risk of entering a foreign market is a complex process, and that varies based on multiple factors like cost. For example, cost of entering a foreign market is difficult to assess. Um, it can be challenging due to factors like labor expenses, regulatory compliance, taxation, infrastructure quality, and so on, right? There's also the complication of fluctuations in foreign exchange rates, which can actually increase operational cost, right? Um, Looking at the benefits, they are easier to estimate. So, benefits such as revenue growth and market expansion can often be predicted using market data like population size, GDP growth, and actually the spending trends. There are also predictable factors from increased demand for beverages in gray markets. That's an example. I'm just using Coca-Cola as an example, like in India and Africa. There's always the increased demand of beverages, right? Looking at the risk, there's a highly probability, in fact, high difficulty to assess. So these risks include political instability, currency fluctuations, and economic crisis, especially in countries with unstable governments or restrictive trade policies, right? There's also cultural risk, like misalignment with cultural preferences, that can actually harm the image of a brand and market penetration. So now let's gauge the cost, benefits, and risk of a foreign market. Case study Coca-Cola, right? Let's start with the cost. So remember that Coca-Cola actually faced significant initial costs to re-enter the Indian market in 1993 after exiting in 1977. They had to spend over 1 billion between 1993 and 2002 to establish production facilities, distribution networks, and actually acquire established brands like Thumbs Up, which helped them reduce costs associated with building consumer loyalty from scratch, right? Now, in terms of benefits, they capitalized on India's growing middle class, urbanization, and actually shifting consumer preferences towards non-alcoholic beverages. And of course, with a population of over 1.4 billion, India's vast market, India's market was a great potential, and Coca-Cola was able to leverage that among younger consumers to grow its business. With risk, um, there is this the strict India's strict foreign direct investment rules, taxes, and environmental regulations that actually pose a challenge, and of course the cultural risk. Some people prefer spicier and more flavors that or stronger flavors that actually required Coca-Cola to adapt by acquiring and marketing Thumbs Up, which actually aligned with Indian taste, right? So let's look at joint ventures versus other strategic alliances. What are some of the advantages? By the way, joint ventures and other strategic alliances are just standard methods for companies to expand internationally. Okay, so some of the advantages include shared risk and cost. So joint ventures actually allow companies to share the financial risk and operational cost of entering a foreign market. There's also access to local expertise. So local partners provide insight into the market knowledge, consumer preferences, and the regulatory environment, right? There is also strong market positioning. So combining strength with local partners actually enhances market positioning, speeding up penetration and boosting competitive advantage. However, there are also disadvantages of joint ventures, and that includes loss of control. Because when you have a shared ownership, it can lead to conflicts over decision making or profit distributions and other things, right? There is also the disadvantage of profit sharing. You have to share your profit, and that's limited returns compared to if you wholly owned your subsidiaries, especially in profitable markets, right? There's also the disadvantage of limited flexibility. So as far as decision making is concerned and pursuing new opportunities, it can be slowed down due to the need for negotiation and alignment with other partners. Now, contrary to joint ventures, other strategic alliances offer advantages of greater flexibility, lower commitment, and retained control. But of course, they have their own disadvantages like limited resource sharing and limited local insights. Does Coca-Cola use joint ventures as an international strategy? Yes, it does. Now, what are some of the reasons that it uses joint ventures? Risk sharing. Coca-Cola uses joint ventures so that it can share financial and operational risk in entering new markets, especially in regions that have complex regulatory environments. And an example is going to be Coca-Cola's joint venture with COFCO in China that actually reduced exposure to market volatility and political risk. There's also the access to local expertise. So local expertise actually or local partners provide valuable insights into the market dynamics, the regulatory requirements, and consumer preferences. And so Coca-Cola's joint ventures partnership with, for example, in India, actually helped it incorporate regional preferences by acquiring Thumbs Up, right? The next is faster market penetration. So Coca-Cola actually leveraged its partners' infrastructure, distribution networks, and customer relationships, and that actually helped with their market entry in emerging regions, such as their partnership with Ojan Industries in the Middle East, that actually allowed them to expand in regional market share very quickly. Now, does Coca-Cola always use joint ventures? No. So in developed countries, Coca-Cola prefers wholly owned subsidiaries of franchising models because, of course, it wants to maintain full control of its operations and profits. Because there are always challenges with joint ventures, such as conflict and profit sharing, right? So let's talk about Coca-Cola's decision to invest in health-conscious products, right? So one of the major reasons was to align with consumer trends, because due to the increasing awareness of health risk associated with sugar, most people now consume products that are healthy. So Coca-Cola had to shift towards organic beverages or sugar-free beverages like Coca-Cola Zero, right? There's also the factor of revenue growth. So they have experienced revenue growth in new health-focused market segments. So of course they want to maintain that. And then there is mitigating regulatory risk, right? So there are regulations targeting sugar consumption, or the regulations, the global regulations, including sugar taxes, have actually intensified. So their shift towards low sugar and sugar-free products has reduced the impact of these taxes. And then there is sustainability and corporate responsibility, where initiatives like World Without Waste will reflect their commitment to sustainability, right? And then there is a counterpoint where critics argue that emphasizing health-conscious products may weaken sales of core offerings like Coca-Cola Classic. But the success of Coca-Cola Zero Sugar shows the company can actually diversify without harming its core business. In conclusion, Coca-Cola's global success can be attributed to its ability to balance domestic and international strategies through product standardization and localization. Thank you very much.